awesome. I don't know when we were last here. There are so many new faces, a lot of familiar faces, but so many new people as well, which is so cool to see. If you don't know me, my name is Kate. I was Kate Spencer. I'm now a Kate Aird. I married into the beautiful Aird family back in 2018. I'm a wife, I'm a mum, I'm a lover of Jesus and netball, and my favourite new addition to my intro, I love a Thermomix. I am a Thermomix queen, a Thermomix consultant. It's what I do, so if you have questions, just let me know. No, this is not a business talk. I first attended Restore, was back Castle Hill Community Church in 2003 when my family moved just up the road in the street up the back there. And I think a lot of people know me or remember me when I was like 5 and little and running around like my beautiful daughter Sammy is now. I say to my mum, I'm like, she is so wild, like she keeps me so busy. And mum's like, yeah, that was me. Like, welcome to my world. And I was like, oh, sorry, that's my bad. Restore is where I gave my life to Christ. This is where I was baptized. This is where I grew my faith. This house holds incredible memories for me, especially meeting my now husband, Nathan. We met here. I don't remember meeting Nathan. He's just always been. He was just always around. Creeper. He was always around. And yeah, we got married in here, but I'm pretty sure we had green floors and yellow walls. So it looks very different in here now, so you've done a very great job. Nathan and I are both absolutely honoured to be here today to share a little bit of our story. Since Nathan's accident, we've been incredibly blessed by you all, and we know that you've been faithfully praying for us, so thank you so much for that. We've really felt the love from afar. Nathan is 100% a miracle. He should not be here today. And I just want to share briefly about his story and the miracles and everything that we've seen over time. And so if you would bless me with that time, that would be unreal. We saw some really dark days, and we saw some really joyful moments within them all. And I'd love to share them with you. I do have some photos, so apologies, it's a bit of a jump scare, but I've tried to keep them pretty as PG as I can. I'm going to share Nathan's story, because you might be like, I have absolutely no idea who you are and what you're on about. So I'm just going to go through Nate's story and what he's been through and what we've been through, and then we'll go through a little bit more. So at the end of November 2023, this week it'll be 2 years, Nathan had an accident on his road bike. He was travelling on a bike track from in Newcastle, where we live, back to our house, which he did very, very regularly, nearly every week. He was on a road, though, that he didn't ever travel on. So when they told me where they found him, I was like, he doesn't ride there. And we have no idea why he was where he was. He can't remember a thing from the accident, nor some weeks prior to as well. And no one saw his accident. He just hit a traffic direction pole. They're pretty sure he had a seizure while he was riding, and this caused the accident. But no one saw it, however, people heard it. The house he crashed in front of, a lady was out the front gardening at the time, which she never does. She never is out the front. And she was, at the time, gardening. And she was a brain injury nurse. So she knew exactly what to do at the time. So she got straight into first aid. So she happened to be a brain injury nurse. There also happened to be no other ambos around, but those ambos couldn't intubate Nathan on the scene. However, there were the Westpac helicopter doctors just driving around the area at the time. So they happened to be there and could intubate and sedate Nathan on the side of the road and save his life. If they weren't there, he wouldn't have made it to John Hunter Hospital, which is only 10 minutes from where he had his accident. Nathan got to John Hunter Hospital. He had more surgeries on his brain to help stabilise him. And in that, they also discovered he has a brain tumour. There's a tumour in the middle of his brain. And they don't know how long he's had it for. They don't know when it grew. We don't know anything. But they assume he's had it since he was little. Nate spent 2 months in hospital recovering before going to rehab, both at Rankin Park and the Hunter Brain Injury Service. And at this time, I was only weeks away from giving birth to Sammy, who is now 20 months. When Nathan had his accident, I was 26 weeks pregnant. Our beautiful Sammy was born in March 2024, and Nathan was able to be at the birth, which was unreal, and he fully remembers everything from it, which is a massive blessing. He could support me and encourage me through it all, and this is what we call the end of round 1. Then Nathan went to rehab during the day. He was home at night time. We had a 6-week-old daughter. She was going great. We're doing really well. And then we knew we had to do something about his tumour. We had the neurosurgeons in Newcastle really saying we needed to get onto that because something could happen. And so we knew we needed to do something. When Sammy was 6 weeks old, Nathan went in for his biopsy of his tumour, which should have been very, very straightforward. They should have just cut a bit of it out. They knew they couldn't get it all because it's connected to his brain stem, so you can't take the whole thing out. But they were going to try to get a lot out. And when they cut into his tumour, it just exploded and it bled all through his brain. He had a huge brain bleed during surgery. It then left him back in ICU for 2 more months. He then had a stroke. He had an aneurysm, a pseudoaneurysm, and was left much, much worse than after his accident. Sammy was like 2 to 3 months old at this time. It was a really scary time. Nath was then officially diagnosed with brain cancer. However, his tumour hasn't grown since, which is an absolute blessing. It's just kind of stable. So he has frequent MRIs just to keep looking at it. And then Nathan was told he wouldn't get better. He'd have a very, very low quality of life. However, he got better. And he improved. And the doctors predicted he wouldn't, and he did. He always showed them wrong. And after 7 months away from home again, he then returned. So that was about a year ago now Nathan's been home for. And I can tell Nathan's story quite nonchalantly. It's been my life for the last 2 years. However, I know this could be the first time a lot of you have even heard about us or heard this story or anything. So just take a minute to breathe in the fact that Nathan is here in the room with us and he's going to share his story with you. He should not be here. This is such a huge miracle. Multiple times, not just once shouldn't be here. Multiple times we were told he would not be alive or have a very high quality of life at all. I'm just going to go through some of the really key miracles we saw, just so you can again just super see how God's hand was in over him and us our whole lives, and over this time. There are so many I can't share as well because there is just so many, and I don't have enough time. But let me go through a few. I'm going to go through the first kind of round and then the second round, if you can follow that. So the first one, Nath was outside. If he was going to have this seizure regardless. He was going to have this episode regardless, and he was outside in the front of a brain injury nurse's house with the Westpac doctors going past. That shouldn't have happened. I was really busy at work that week. We were launching a new system at work, and I was training it out, and I was going to be home late that night, and I would have found him at home dead. And he was outside, found by people. In ED, when I saw Nath and signed consent forms for his surgery, his orthopaedic surgeon showed me his broken wrist, his broken arm and broken wrist on the other hand. And then I saw them both. He showed me, it was disgusting, but he showed me the broken wrist. And then Nathan came out of surgery and he only had one broken wrist. The other one was just fine. They don't know why. He didn't really have an answer for me, and I was like, that's Jesus. He didn't really get that, but I keep trying. With his brain bleeds, you have these drains that come out of your head. Sorry if you've got a weak stomach. Surgeons basically told me that because blood is thick, it's going to clog those drains. And they told me, they'll fix them overnight, they'll continue to refresh them and repeat them, and then they'll open him up and he won't make it. That's what they told me before I went home that first night. And he made it through the night and his drains never clogged. And the surgeon came in, she said, I don't understand. I don't get it. They should have clogged. I told my register to stay here. I was like, that's Jesus. We got a lot of people praying. She goes, just keep praying. She's like, just keep doing it then. His blood pressure settled. His fever's settled. He had no brain infections from the drains going into his head. He could move his whole body. That was something we weren't sure about. He eventually remembered who I was and that we were pregnant. That is a very funny story. I can share that another time. He has a shunt that sits in the back of his head. That surgery went really, really successfully and still helps him to the date. He'll let you touch it if you feel like it later. Someone at our church up in Newcastle blessed us with $10,000, and that check came to me, and that just paid our mortgage for a couple months, and it was just such a blessing. That was a miracle for us because at that point we have such an incredibly generous family who would always support us, but that was just something that just helped us through those couple months. Our church also put together Sammy's bedroom for us and fixed up our house, which was something that Nathan was going to do. So one day I came home and just the nursery was set up and the house was all put together. It was just such a blessing of community for us. At the end of January in 2024, in the space of 2 weeks, Nathan was very closely observed in hospital, and he went to then be able to come home in the space of that time, which was impressive. Round 2, Nathan woke up. That was a miracle. He woke up from surgery. He should not have. His breathing tubes came out. They should not have. That was a miracle. He knew who I was straight away. He couldn't talk, but he knew who I was, and I could tell. His shunt didn't get infected. It was full of blood from his bleed. It didn't get infected, and I was told it would, and they'd have to replace it, and that meant more surgery, and it didn't get infected. He had all the markers for it, and they were preparing us for it, and then it just never changed, and it just kind of died off. I got a call at 12 a.m. one morning from a surgeon asking me for consent to do a surgery. Nathan had a pseudoaneurysm in one of the arteries in the back of his brain, in his cerebellum, and if it burst, which it was going to, he would then be left with a severe disability. And I had to give consent over the phone to that at midnight. I then got a call 3 hours later that it was fine, and they just clipped it, and it was no big deal, which was not expected at all. I was told Nathan wouldn't move the right side of his body very well again, which he can. On the 17th of May, Nathan was non-responsive. I put a call out for prayer. I had a text message group. His CT showed problems. They were taking him down for a procedure, and then they were about to intubate him again, and he became responsive just instantly. And they took him back to CT, and he had no issues in his brain. They were clear again. He was able to get off his seizure medication, which is a blessing. He's fully continent. After 2.5 months, he talked. That was cool, hearing his voice again. It sounds a little bit different, as you'll hear, but it is getting better as he talks more and more and as he gets better. He did not need a permanent feeding tube. This is something they really, really wanted to do, and he didn't need it, and he can now eat normal food. We had frangos last night. Oh, man, I haven't had that for a long time. That needs to come to Newcastle. Woo, that was good, and thank the Lord you could eat that. He can drink normal fluids. He was taken off his strong sedatives. And we have the most incredible care team and rehab team that's on one of those slides. They go bike riding with Nathan, cycling. He's running and swimming. They're just incredible. And Nathan is back to doing all the things that he loved in some capacity, which is just a blessing. They are the biggest blessing to us as our support workers. And I always pray that they know that, how much of a blessing they are to us. And the more I share our stories and the miracles that we hold, I realize the weight that we carry. And there's so much more I can share, but before I hand over to Nathan, I just want to scratch the surface on some of the things that I have learnt and journeyed through. And I don't want to come across like I'm making light of what people go through. This is just what's helped me and what I have walked through. Some of you see pain and grief and tragedy, and you walk through that yourself every single day. But this is just what encouraged me and helped me through the monotonous, mundane cycle of hospital and rehab and brain injury, which is just ongoing. Psalm 23 verse 4 says, "Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me." It's that phrase, even when. Not maybe if, even when. God does not promise us a life full of fairy floss, candy canes, strawberry clouds. He doesn't promise us that, but he promises that when we inevitably go through the messiness of life, he promises to go with us. He will be so close to me, and I do not need to be afraid, and that's exactly what I felt. Isaiah 43 verse 2 says, "When you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fires of oppression, you will not be burnt up. The flames will not consume you." Again, God does not promise us that we won't go through the messiness of life. We're not just protected because we are Christians and we follow him, but what he does promise us is that he will be with us. And this is where my humanness wants with us to be fix-it, and it's not. And that took me a little while I'm still dealing with that. But I want it to be fix-it, but he's like, no, I will be with you. And that's exactly what it is. He just walked with me, and I felt that. There is pain and suffering in this life, but there is so much more hope made available to us through Jesus. And this hope is so much more comforting than what the world had to offer me. And that's why we are patiently waiting. And I'm not camping in this season. I'm not setting up camping, getting comfortable, but I'm patiently waiting in this space, and I'm not getting comfortable. My dad always said, if you're comfortable, get uncomfortable. And that is what I have walked through and carried my entire life. My brother and I both have. And I'm not comfortable in this space. We are getting uncomfortable. We are continuing to push and believe and pray that Nathan will be healed fully. Whether it's this side of eternity or not, we will see healing for Nathan fully. And I'm expectant of that. It's hilarious that you guys did Firm Foundation today, because when we shared our testimony at our church, they also did Firm Foundation, and they didn't know it's in my sermon, and then Tom did it, and I was just like, God, you're doing something there. So, like the song Firm Foundation, I've still got joy in chaos, and I've got peace when it makes no sense, and that was me. I was joyful. I shouldn't have been joyful. My world was messy. I was pregnant. My husband was in the ICU, and I could laugh, but not like the creepy kind where you need therapy. Like I was joyful. Like I could be happy, and my life was chaos, and I had peace in it. Nathan calls me Chaos Kate. I am chaos. I'm all over the place, but I was peaceful in that, and I tried my absolute best to not let the devil rob me of any joy that I had by getting me to worry about the future. And that's something that I would tell Mum constantly, because I moved back in with Mum and Dad. And Mum would say to me, oh, worry about this. She wouldn't tell me to worry, but we'd both be sitting there going, oh, what about this? What about this? And I'd say, no, I'm not being robbed of the joy of the day, whether that was Nathan just being awake. I'm not being robbed of that joy by making me worry about what's to come. I always tried to hold on to hope no matter what the day held. And sometimes that was me driving to hospital and going, is he going to be awake? Do I have to wake him up? That was fun. Is he going to be? The brain does some wild things. I don't know if you've never met anyone with a brain injury, but it does some crazy stuff. Even you just never knew what you were going to rock up to when you met Nathan at hospital. I'll tell you that later. Would I walk into his ward, basically? Would he be there? Was he offered a scan? Was he offered security because he's trying to escape? All those kind of things. Trying to run away? Yeah. His personality was there the whole time. It was great. This is a wildly long journey for us. We're still dealing with it every single day. It's monotonous, it's in and out, it's mundane, of rehab, and it's hard on everyone, not just us. It's hard on our families, it's hard on our friends, it's hard on our community. But when I allowed the devil to rob me of that joy, I let him into an incredibly special place that the Lord has. And it was a really conscious decision I had to make, was to stay joyful. Even when doctors told me it wouldn't get better, or he's not improving, I had to hold on to hope. And just because I couldn't see the miracle happening in my timing doesn't mean it wasn't happening at all. And that's why we're fully expectant that Nathan will continue to be healed. So with that, I'll pass on to the man himself.
There's a lot of people here. I don't know how you've done this everything looks different from here. I'm used to it back there in that corner. This is different. So, well done. We'll see. If you don't know me, my name's Nathan. I was born into the church back in 1994. I think my parents are here somewhere, so it's their fault. Similarly to Kate, it was in this place that I grew up, and I developed my faith. I was sown into by amazing leaders and pastors, people like Lachlan John, Jeff Brayley, and Jacob Meyer, to name a few. I go to invest into the future leaders we see now. People like Max, Ruben, and the other members of the youth team. It's been an amazing community that fostered and challenged me. I even met my wife here, and the biggest miracle I've ever seen in Kate Spencer. Now, Ed. Sorry about that. Before I continue, I'd like to say thank you to my wife, Kate. If I'm honest, I've been pretty horrible to her in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, it seems to be a bit of a trend with someone going through this type of crime season. Apparently, the post-brain injury divorce rate is around 48% to 78% of marriages. I can only thank God and Kate that my wife has stayed committed to me through it all. So, thank you to my amazing wife, Kate, not just for staying around, but for being as amazing, caring, and as much of a goofball as well. I'd also like to thank Pastor Adrian and the church here as a whole. Without this community, I never would have met Kate. So, thank you. I'm going to be pretty vulnerable with this, as I've seen that there is great power in vulnerability. And I want to truly share what my experience has been, because before me, we never met anyone with a brain injury, so we had no idea what to expect going into this. So, the best way I can describe a brain injury is like getting really, really old, but still being a tiny child at the same time. And by really, really old, I mean anything over and including about 32-ish. Part of my experience of having a brain injury has been things like my eyesight going weird and blurry sometimes, and it definitely not being as sharp as it once was. My speech is laggy and hard to understand. My hearing is a daily issue, and people always have to repeat themselves around me. It's also super hard to keep up with the conversation, so I don't feel like I have anything valuable to contribute. I constantly feel like I need to go to the toilet, but I'm often not able to tell accurately what's going on. Initially, I was incontinent every night, and even sometimes throughout the day, which was really hard to deal with, especially when you're a 30-year-old man and meant to be in the prime of your life. My balance and coordination is completely out the window. I'm super slow at doing the most simple tasks like eating and swallowing. I'm constantly dribbling all the time. My memory is pretty bad, and my fitness was hugely impacted. I was very fit and active before my injury. I'm working really hard on getting back to it, but it's hard. In my story, I really seen God working through good people, good habits, or directly by the good God doing some funky stuff only He can do. Good people. Whether they know God or not, God has used these people in the right time and the right place. People like the paramedics and doctors who treated me on the scene initially. People like my therapist that treated me both at hospital and rehab, alongside my current support workers who give of themselves daily and truly have cared for me since I've had this brain injury. We often disregard it because it's just everyday life, but I think there's something to be said for the passions that God places on our hearts and how He molds that often into careers and jobs. Also, people leading me from this church have shown me that I still have a place in God's kingdom here on earth, that I'm not a spent cartridge, that my faith is legitimate because of the faith they also have shown and continue to pass on to others over the years. I'd also like to mention our current church in Newcastle, Rhythm City. They've been an extended family to Kate, Sammy and I. Kate and I have only been a part of one church growing up in Sydney, this church. So when we moved to New, we had no idea what the process of finding a new church would be like. But despite COVID and barely ever making it on Sunday because of my shift work, God provided us with a family that stood by us in the exact right time when we need them most. God has used them as His hands and feet in the most challenging part of our lives so far. Having this family around us that we both chose together to be a part of has literally saved us, both individually and as a couple. Good habits. Now, not great habits, mind you. I'm not that disciplined. But things like regular Bible reading and regular prayer have helped me remain centered and tied to God in the bad times, the good, and the plethora in between. Remaining in His Word has given me a solid basis to work from, something to push me in the right direction. It's consistent, just like He is. Things like regular prayer, even like saying grace at dinner, pushes my scope outside of myself onto the activity of others and what God's up to, either in that space and time or what He's been up to recently. I've been reading through the book of Job recently. It amazes me that Job has no real place being in the Bible. He was a guy that had a heap of bad things happen to him, like the loss of his family, wealth, and health. And he lets God know about it. He didn't hide his anger or emotions. He lets God know that he's hurt and angry about what he's gone through. But he never runs away or lashes out towards others or God. He keeps coming back to God because he knows that with Him is the best way to live and that He is the ultimate power. Good God. John 16:33 says, I've told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. His peace is how I know it's really Jesus. When I'm worried, all the odds are stacked against me. That's what I hold on to, the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. In John 10:10, it says, For He has given us life and life to the full, whereas the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. In a lot of ways, I've been letting myself be robbed of life to the full. I believe I have a new understanding of life to the full. It's not just an awesome experience, although that would be cool, but He'll ride the wave with us. He promises to do the hard yards with us and not abandon us. Some of you may be thinking, why is this guy who has had a stroke and been through a pretty rough period talking about life to the full? Well, I believe I'm on the road back to it because of Jesus. Yes, I've been through a ton of crap, and the journey back is super slow, but Jesus has never abandoned me. In this, it's not discounting that life is hard sometimes, that there's a fight to be had in everyone's life, but He's still a God of life to the full. I used to think life to the full was all the awesome cool words about life, but now I think it's more about an internal perspective change, about experiencing all that life was meant to be, with the good and the bad, the ups and the downs, and seeing it with new eyes, an eternal and life-giving perspective, a kind of wisdom that this world has no ownership, possession, or even knowledge of. God never planned to be an insurance policy, just waiting for us to die so we can go to heaven and live happily ever after. He's not some joker that you sign up to one day and forget about until you're dead. Knowing you've got the goods taken care of. He's about living the best possible life now and forever. And I feel like I've been missing that for a long time. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's masterpiece, created anew to do the good things He planned for us long ago." Please don't take Jesus for some lucky guy who things have happened to work out for. He's a man with a plan and has been working things together for yours and I's benefit since well before either of us were alive. I think my story has shown that. I should be dead twice. But I'm here today talking to you about a God who wants us to have the best life possible. He's the one who created this world, and He's given us a how-to manual about how the best way to live it is. In the Divine Conspiracy, Dallas Willard says, "The most important thing in your life is not what you do, it's who you become. That's what you will take into eternity." And in his book, Celebration of Discipline, Richard Foster says, "Superficiality is the curse of our age. The doctrine of instant satisfaction is a primary spiritual problem. The desperate need today is not for a great number of intelligent people or gifted people, but for deep people." I tend to agree with those quotes. It's often not about how gifted you are or what skills you have to offer, but whether you're willing to put in the time with what you do have and give it over to God to do something with. If you want that kind of perspective and life that Jesus promises. I encourage you to ask the deep questions, ask the hard questions, and don't hold back. There's plenty of people that hear and willing to try their best to answer them. I'm one of them. Katie's another. And anyone else with a friendly enough face is probably one of them too. So if you have questions about what life to the full is and how you can have access to it, ask away. No matter who you ask, the answers won't be perfect, but they'll be a start. Finding the right church and the right people to be around you and support you as you live your life with Christ is vital. It has been for Kate and I as we wrote Sammy. I might ask the band to come up now as I wrap up. And so we have some time now to think about where you are with faith. And I'd ask everyone else to just take this time. You can close your eyes if you'd like to and enjoy just being in God's presence. Right now, you have the opportunity just between you and God to either come into a relationship with Him for the first time or come back to Him. Surrounded by the right people, whether that's here or somewhere else. There's some time now to make that decision for yourself, and you can pray with someone who's been on this journey a while and who cares about you being on that journey too, living the best life possible. It's not about just being a yes man and doing whatever is dropped in your lap. Sometimes it's about being at home around those that you love and that love you. Sometimes it's about saying no to the cool adventure, but it's not always. That's the joy of the life that is given to us. There's no rule book for every single decision in your life. It's about living it and finding out the hard way. Don't think about making the commitment to getting to know God because of someone else or worrying about what they'll think of you, good or bad. Make the commitment to really knowing Jesus because of yourself. Because that's what life to the full truly is. He's standing there offering it to you. He's not going to say no or too late. And communion is an awesome place for this. We can come to a place at the table. Everyone and anyone is welcome. Where we are known, wanted, and loved by God. His sacrifice is the ultimate reminder of this. Let me pray before we take communion. I think it's somewhere around the back. There's a few different spots. I'll pray. Thank you, God, that you're not in some distant land, but you're right here with us, always. I thank you that you'll never abandon us, despite how full on our lives can get. I thank you that you offer us life to the full, both now and forever. I thank you that it's not an easy life, but it's all that you made life to be, And thank you that you'll never abandon us, and that it's never too late for us. Amen. Now, everyone is welcome to come to the tables. Take the bread and the juice and take communion in your own time. The band will lead us in worship in remembrance of what Jesus did for us by dying on the cross, so that we can have life and live to the full.